Hello. If this is a recommended video, welcome to Billy Host Sports. Today we're covering the fastest horses in the world competing in the 2024 Breeders' Cup. This is going to be the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Make sure you watch until the end for the big top 5 reveal. You won't want to miss out. If this is a recommended video, I ask you that you really quickly hit that subscribe button. If you like what you see, smash that like button and share it on social media. Helps me a lot. So we're going to get into this right away with the top horse, maybe. The Chosen Vron is a California sprint legend known for consistency, speed. He wins over 75%, 25 starts in his career. Trained by Eric Krulak. This is a chestnut gelding. Floats between Santa Anita and Del Mar for most of his career. So he's got some home cooking going. He's got back-to-back races. 2 races he dominated at 6 furlongs in the Bing Crosby at Del Mar, but he actually did get caught in the Pat O'Brien late, was defeated by a horse named Raging Torrent that we'll discuss. I thought that actually in that race, the Pat O'Brien that jockey Antonio Frigiu aboard Raging Torrent rode a very tactically sound race. Was able to get inside of the Chosen Vron, who had Hector Barrios aboard. And as they made the turn into the stretch, he kind of forced the Chosen Vron outside a little bit more than he wanted to be. At least that's my opinion. Was able to get that inside position to kick clear by the time they got to the wire. So that put Raging Torrent, trained by Doug O'Neill, smack dab into the mix for this race. Just a 3-year-old colt by Maximus Mischief. He had a win 3rd and 4th as a 2-year-old at Del Mar, then really began to mature at Churchill Downs during the spring meet. Quite the impact, actually coming in race 13 following Mystic Dan's win in the Kentucky Derby. He comes in at a nice 8-1 Raging Torrent, earning a 104 buyer. Dominated an allowance race on Derby Day. Then he stuck around for the June 30th Maxfield Overnight Stakes, which he won also. And now he's coming off the layoff. So he comes off that layoff and beats the Chosen Vron. So you have to figure after watching that, boy, he's going to be really, really good. And that'll be tough to beat, to be honest with you. Rod Brissett, this is a horse that I really like. Mulligan, 4-year-old colt by Violence, is a perfect 4 for 4 this year, and back-to-back stakes wins in the Grade 2 Nehrud and then a Grade 1 Forgo. The speed in the Forgo was very close if you want to weigh the 2 different tracks from Saratoga and Del Mar, but I just have the impression that the Saratoga track is a little bit heavier than the Del Mar track in the summertime. So the figures he ran for the Forgo were very, very close to what Raging Torrent ran in the Pat O'Brien. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. I feel like it was a better effort on the Saratoga surface running that kind of speed than it was in the Pat O'Brien. Now, Keeneland's opening weekend obviously didn't disappoint. The big race there was the Ogden Phoenix. The favorite was Nakatomi, trained by Wesley Ward. Unfortunately, closing second place to a federal judge. Brad Cox trained horse just took a 19% number 1 post winning clip and took it to the house. The 4-year-old gelding just shot out of the gate, out of the 1 hole, and really just Nakatomi got sucked into that and wasn't going to hit his stride, but he did get up for the second place. So Nakatomi really had his best running in like the second or third off the layoff in the Vanderbilt, where he was stalking the front running Skelly down the stretch and blew by that rival for the win. Now, it kind of diminished the win a little bit. I was really pretty impressed at the time, but then Skelly came back off of that and just really kicking in the second itis as he was caught late again for the third straight occasion and going down the stretch in a non-graded stakes as well. So it kind of I believe it was Happy as a Choice ran him down in a uh, just non-graded stakes race. So Skelly's record looks good because he largely dominated those listed in black type stakes early in his career. He had really just won the grade 3 count fleet in back-to-back seasons all the way up until April of this year. So those were the only two graded stakes wins he had. Finally stepped it up into that grade 1 ranks in the Vanderbilt, and it looked like a good fit. He was the favorite, but as we discussed, he was caught late, noticeably late out of the gate as well in the last few, but no excuse in the Vanderbilt because he broke pretty cleanly. I watched that a couple of times, but the going all the way back to races that he actually won out at Oaklawn, he broke late and still got it done. But then he broke late in the Aristides at Churchill Downs, and he did not get it done. He had to rush back up to the lead, and then close the game. Sugar caught him down the stretch. So moving on to the next set of horses. Speaking of Steve Asmussen, he's got another entry named Gun Pilot, 4-year-old colt by Gun Runner. Signature win for that one came in the 7 furlong Churchill Downs Stakes, the grade 1 sprint for 4-year-olds and up. That was where Hear My Song set some very swift early fractions that kind of set up Gun Pilot to come from off the pace. There are several horses that do like to come off of the pace for a sprint, which is very interesting. So moved into position at the top of the stretch, and he had a full tank while the rest were on fumes. So that was a very, very nice win for Gun Pilot. Now, that win propelled him to a heavy favorite in the True North Stakes, where he didn't quite have his game. No match for Mulligan in the Forego, but was the clear next best. So not a bad horse. But that leads me to the next one up when going back to that race at Keeneland last weekend on the 4th, Federal Judge, trained by Brad Cox. But he got out fast and free without much pressure. He won his first two races at the age of 3, finishing a solid 4th in the Woody Stevens last year. Now, he faced off against a very stout Arabian Lion back then. You fast forward to 2024, after a year, full year off, by the way, he came back into the Lowndes Company, beaten favorite going 7 furlongs at Saratoga, but then he came back to roll a month later at 6.5 furlongs to win by 6. So he got a 102 Brisnet speed figure, and I'll probably bounce back and forth between Brisnet and Beyer. So don't get confused between the two. The Brisnet numbers are I feel a little bit more secure with them than the Beyer figures, but people like Beyer numbers too. So if I've got a Beyer number, I'll shout it out. He'll give Brad Cox and Windstar Farms a good shot at winning this race, I do believe. Federal Judge is just on an improve. Now, we get to next up, trainer Dan Blacker. Out of his 90 days in the hole, so to speak, as he was suspended for various different trainer violations. I won't get into that, but just 3 wins and 39 starts since his return, though. So he's not really lighting it up out there west. He is a West Coast trainer, so he trains a very fast horse named Straight No Chaser, though. This is a 5-year-old making his 3rd start of 2024, coming off a big win in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, and wore him out down the stretch to win going away. So good looking prospect for this race. Redeemed himself. It was a very subpar performance as the chalky favorite in the grade 3 Run Happy up at Aqueduct. So that one's going to be definitely in the mix. Now, another one I'm not super high on, but it's Super Chow. Jorge Delgado, 4-year-old, back-to-back 4th place finishes in non-graded stakes. That's not going to get it done. Very soft 2-1 favorite in the Park Sprint, and was in position in the stretch, but wasn't fast enough. 90% Maddie, trained by Robert Reed, is a nice looking 4-year-old gelding as well. Bred in Pennsylvania, very try hard horse. 4 second place finishes in 6 races this season. So the Park Sprint, he was second place in that one, third in the Nehru, seconds in the True North and Run Happy. So he's running versus some good leveled stakes competition, graded stakes competition, that is. So I guess we'll close things off with Bob Baffert. I had to mention his horse Imagination, full of potential, but I don't know where this horse falls as far as distance goes. But it's a very fast horse, 3-0 colt by Into Mischief. Was kind of on the Triple Crown trail, won the San Felipe, then second place in the Santa Anita Derby. Obviously wasn't going to run in the Kentucky Derby, but seventh place finish in the slop at Pimlico, caught wide, and then another time was wide. No excuse in the Woody Stevens, but third behind Muth in the Shared Belief was way wide around turn one in that one too. So no excuses in the Woody, like I said. So I feel like that kind of wraps up the majority of the field for at least a first look. So let's narrow it down to a top five. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Nakatomi. I think it was hurt by that inside speed bias at Keeneland that day. Still a major threat and a good speedster. So number 5, Nakatomi. A little bit less on the Skelly victory last out because Skelly was beaten recently too. So that brings me to number 4, which is going to be Federal Judge, and probably could be ranked higher if there was a little bit more sample size to the major races. But Brad Cox has won 9 overall Breeders' Cup races, and 8 of them are different Breeders' Cup races. But he has not won the sprint, and he is such a good sprint. I think maybe he might be due for this one. So Federal Judge definitely going to be on my radar to win this race. Number 3, I'm going to give it to Raging Torrent. Cannot dismiss that big win over the Vron at Del Mar most recently. And then you have Mulligan. I have ahead of Raging Torrent because I think that 4 for 4 in 24 and gaining momentum and that 4-go speed was legit. I think it could translate to maybe even a little faster on the Del Mar surface. And plus, once you get it more into the fall weather, that it starts to be less front end speed favoring and more ability to come from off the pace. So that's right in Mulligan's wheelhouse. And then we're going to go with number 1, and that is going to be your chosen Braun. And just you can't count him out just because he lost at the wire, going a furlong farther than he's set to go in the BC Sprint anyway. So still the top dog in the division. You can't deny that. So that's going to be your preview for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Having a good time prepping these videos and bringing them to you. I hope you're finding them useful. And we're going to begin diving in deeper into the more handicapping and past performances the closer we get to November 1st. So remember, subscribe, like, notification bells, share on social media. Be on the lookout for more content coming soon. Thanks for watching.